As I mentioned, this show being a Cartoon Network studio produced show, you'd expect this episode to be an exciting one, packed with adventure. However, this specific episode is an exception. It does not have a proper plot, but more importantly, it does not have a real end goal. When I watched this as a kid, I thought of this episode to be a boring one where Finn and Jake just do random stuff. And even now, I still consider it to be a stale episode that left an unsatisfying aftertaste, as it didn't have the spark that a regular Adventure Time episode would have. It didn't have that ending that I was looking for, that conclusion. There are two side plots in this episode. One, where Finn is led astray from his treehouse by a cat under a box disguise. He's taken to a secluded area with a concerning amount of boxes stacked on top of each other, resembling a kingdom. It turns out that the cat that Finn had met was the supposed prince of this kingdom, but was overthrown by a fake. So Finn, being the hero that he is, tries his best to get the prince his kingdom back. In the end, there was a joust between the two cats. Their disguises were removed, and eventually all the cats in that Colosseum had begun to quarrel. Moving on to the second plot, where Jake and another companion, Bimo, lays around, chill out, and play games. Jake snacks on some chips, but unfortunately gets one stuck in between his teeth. So he tries to get rid of it by using his tongue, but as you'd assume, that did not work. The pair then try to solve Jake's issue for the rest of the episode. But instead of trying to solve that issue, Jake replies with one of the dumbest, but I think one of the most wisest statements that he's ever said. To live life, you need problems. If you get everything you want the minute you want it, then what's the point of living? This made me realize that, but I realized that although this seems stupid, as Bimo mentions, I realized that if we tried to avoid the problems we face, we wouldn't really experience anything. And to not feel that experience means that we have not learned anything from it. Right now, Jake is experiencing discomfort because of the chip stuck in between his teeth and realizes that this discomfort will stay with him unless he did something. Meanwhile, Finn, experiencing a new kingdom, realizes that the place is not a kingdom as he had initially thought. Because we wouldn't have learned anything from that experience, we wouldn't have grown. And we wouldn't have felt the satisfaction that comes from growth. Moving out of topic, growth is one of the life processes that you learn in biology class. An organism is classified as non-living if it does not contain all these life processes. Therefore, without growth from experience, there is no life. Essentially, if we don't embrace the challenges of life, you would just exist. We would just exist, and we won't live. Then it hit me. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. That is, avoiding problems would be the greatest mistake of our lives. That is what I realized when watching this episode of Adventure Time. I have almost made this great mistake by attempting to avoid speaking here and missing out on an opportunity of growth, an opportunity that was within my control. You all must have also had regrets from missing out on an opportunity to do something. It's not just this cartoon that tells us this, but it is in most shows that we watch. This is a narrative graph. And if we follow the narrative curve that all pieces of story contain, we see that the storyline rises and gets more interesting, more tensive when a problem occurs. This is what most of us call a rising action, or conflict. This rising action makes a story interesting, and without it, the plot would be boring. Would you have rather seen would you have rather seen Jake laze around and play video games? Or would you have rather seen Finn witness a battle between two cats for the reign of the throne of a kingdom? I think we know the answer for that. We all think about the rising action of a story, but we forget one of the most important things about the story: the conclusion, the ending point that can decide whether the thing you watched or read was worth the time spent. It is what makes an episode satisfying to watch and what leaves an aftertaste. Moving back to the Box Prince episode, at the time, I realized that no one achieves their final goal. This episode goes astray from the norm and makes it unique by not having that end goal that most stories do, such as saving the kingdom from the Ice King or preventing an evil from succeeding. This episode purposefully leaves you empty. Although Finn and Jake did experience problems, they were left short-handed as they haven't reached a conclusion. Jake still has the chip stuck in between his teeth by the end of the episode, while Finn realizes that there is no cat prince, box prince, or box kingdom at all. Imagine you spent your time hoping for a great story, except it leads to no conclusion. You'd feel as if you had wasted your time. It's like being left on a cliffhanger, except you're stuck hanging, dangling from that cliff for all eternity. This made me realize that we need to have problems, but more importantly, we need to solve them in order to live a fulfilling life. With problems, we learn, and by solving them, we grow. Therefore, solving a problem is an experience of life. And yes, problems are definitely inconvenient, but I would like to call them pathways to growth. If you avoid your problem, you'd never be able to see yourself solve it. People have a natural tendency of fearing making a mistake, as it could ruin the entire process of solving a problem. Therefore, people tend to avoid the problem as a whole. If you continue to avoid it, your problem, you will continuously make the same mistake over and over and over. If you don't recognize and attempt to solve your problem, your flaw. But you should realize that making a mistake is completely fine. It's natural. We're only human, and without flaw, being human is, well, impossible. Even if you took a wrong turn during your journey, you will eventually end up at that end goal. It just took more time, more effort, and more learning from your mistakes to get back on track and complete that journey. This episode of Adventure Time teaches us that in order to make something interesting and worthwhile, such as life, we need those problems that hinder us from our goals. These obstacles will drive us to solve the solution, and problem solving is in human nature. By solving a problem, you will be left satisfied. This satisfaction is what drove the human race to where it is today. I will say this again. Although avoiding problems would seem dumb to talk about, we need to struggle from these problems. We need to learn from the mistakes that we make during our journey, and we need to solve them. That, I think, is the way to progress through life. Right now, speaking to you all is a very thrilling experience, which makes me glad and satisfied that I faced my childish problem. I've learned a lot from the struggles and beauties of life by watching Adventure Time. I've learned a lot from witnessing the problems that the characters face and the mistakes they make along the way. I've learned a lot from watching them achieve their goals. That left me satisfied too. It's not just Adventure Time. There are so many hidden gems of TV shows and movies and cartoons and literature that would help us to learn and grow. All characters will face problems. That is a fact. And all of them will eventually find their end goal, their end conclusion, and solve their problem. You will be there to witness it, the problems they face and the mistakes they will make during their journey, and the conclusion that they are led to. You all are also one of those characters in your own story. So next time you watch or read something, try analyze what the characters do and why they did it. Yes, it may be time-consuming, but I'd say it's worth it. I've analyzed this episode of Adventure Time and realized that life is boring without having problems that you can solve. If you have no problems, you have no solutions. And without solutions, you'd be left empty-handed and left unsatisfied. This results in zero growth from it. Which is why, in my personal opinion, I think that avoiding problems is a great mistake. I'm not going to give you advice on how you should live life. That's something you should figure out yourself. But I'll tell you how you can figure it out, how you can work it out yourself. Face your problems. Keep on making mistakes. Learn from those mistakes and solve your problem. By obtaining the solution of your issue, you will grow and you will feel the gratification of solving that problem. And as I've said, to live, to grow is to live. I'll end off with 3 words. Face your problems. This is Thedas Jayasuriya. I'll be signing out.